I'm in touch with the leader of the Anbar tribe in Iraq, and leaders of the Ahwazim in Iran, and Sunni leaders, Muslim Sunni leaders in Syria, and even in Judea and Samaria. More and more Arab Muslim leaders who came to realize, and they are saying it, that Israel is not their problem. Israel is actually the solution to their problems, because they understand that these radical forces are not just hunting Jews, not just hunting Christians, but they're also hunting Muslims. And we better work together and fight together against these radical forces. And this is what we are trying to do.
Hey everybody, welcome to today's episode of Covenant and Conflict. My name's Ryan, and we are so excited to have our special guest today, Mr. Ohad Tal, the member of the Israeli Knesset.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here with you today.
So this is your first time on our podcast,
Right.
but you are no stranger to the Christian world or to the United States or
Right.
Texas. How's the trip been going?
Thank God, very good. Very busy, packed. I've been to many places. We've been to Miami, and we've been to Indianapolis and Atlanta, and now here in the great state of Texas.
Yes.
Don't mess with Texas, right?
Of course, always.
Meeting so many great people here. We're doing holy work, trying to bring together Jews and Christians to work together, to fight for the truth. And, this is really beyond imagination.
Cool. So out of all the places you've been, you don't have to say Texas, no pressure. Where's your favorite place to visit in the United States?
Well, actually, I am going to say Texas.
Really?
First of all, I was honored to be a honorary citizen of Texas. Yes, only yesterday by two members of the Senate, of the local Senate
Wow,
here
no
in
way.
Texas. But not just because of that. I really do think that Texas is a state with so many great people who are deeply committed and deeply connected, first of all, to their roots, to truth, to God.
Amen.
And I find it really unbelievable. I mean, until a year ago, I've never been to Texas.
Really?
And in the past year, I think it's already my fifth time here in Texas. And really, this is an incredible place.
Well, on behalf of all Texans, thank you.
My own
And we
pleasure.
believe you. We agree with you. So tell us a little bit about yourself. What brings you to this place in life, a member of the Israel Knesset, family? Tell us a little bit how we got to today.
Well, I've never thought I'll be a politician. I've dedicated before. It's my first term. I'm in the Knesset, which, by the way, for people to understand, the Knesset is like the Congress.
Okay.
In America, in Washington. It's basically the parliament of Israel.
Right.
We have in Israel 120 members of the Knesset.
Wow, okay.
And I had the privilege of being one of them in this for 3 years. It's my first term.
Wow.
I've never thought I'll be a politician. I mean, I've dedicated the last 20 years of my life before that for Jewish education in different roles.
Wow.
I do believe that the greatest challenge of our generation is the challenge of identity. I think it's true to people all around the world. It especially is true for Israel, for the Jews, because after 2,000 years of exile in which we were scattered throughout the world, in the four corners of the world, God has brought us back. God has created the greatest miracle of all, of bringing us back to our homeland.
Wow, yeah.
And now we are going through a process in which we have to discover our own identity. But this time, not just because somebody is putting a gun to our head and forcing us to recognize who we are as we've experienced in the past 2,000 years, that whether we liked it or not, there was a gun pointed to our head or a knife or whatever,
Right.
telling us, you are Jews, you cannot avoid, you cannot escape that. Now we have to discover who we are on our own, and that's a great challenge.
Wow.
And especially because we are living in such times that we have these radical forces, movements who are trying to disconnect us from our identities. For example, the whole progressive wokeism, right, that is flooding America.
Sure.
What's the purpose of that? To disconnect people from their identity. No, you can be whatever you want. You can be a dog, you can be a cat, you can be men, you can be woman. There's no significance to family values, there's no significance to religious values, national values. This is why you can open your borders and everybody is welcome, because who decides what's part of the nation and who's not
Right.
part of, I mean, there's no significance to anything. Only the individual. That's the most sacred thing.
Right.
Which, by the way, I must say again, I don't want to be political too much, but
No, it's hard. It's your job.
yeah, but yeah, we are in Israel. We're so happy that President Trump won the elections, but I think that his victory in these elections, it's not just a brilliant political achievement.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it's a spiritual achievement.
Wow.
And you know why? Because I think that for too long
Mm-hmm.
these radical woke forces, they've tried to tell us, you conservative people, you're not relevant anymore. You are part of the past. It's not relevant for today.
Wow.
And 77 million Americans stood up and said, no, 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 no. We are here. We are here to stay. We are not just part of the past. We are the present. We are the future.
Mm-hmm.
And in that regard, I think it's a brilliant spiritual victory for conservative values over this craziness that we are seeing today.
Amen. Well, we just dove right in, right? We didn't stay in the
right.
shallow water.
Yeah,
We just
yeah,
went right in.
exactly.
All right, so let's talk about that then. So, we right now I feel like we're seeing a lot of extremes in America, at least. And
Right.
personally, I say that's
Yeah.
social media, and
Yeah.
there's a little bit of irony because we're here on a social media channel.
Yeah.
But
But we are trying to take the social media to a good place.
yes,
This is
so
what you're trying to do.
we hear over here or we see in America the extremes. Everyone, both sides, whether it's right or left,
Yep.
you accuse the media of bias,
Yep.
and then the algorithms on our social media are all surrounding us with people who agree with us and think like us. So it's very easy to point the finger to the other side. But as we know, there's a little bit of good and evil in every situation, right? The human nature right now is trying to be redeemed back to the image of God, to go back to that relationship, go back to that identity we see in Genesis. So I think, what would you say to the reality that there are some people who, no matter if it's the Trump administration or the current administration in Israel, that we lift it up on a pedestal, that they do no wrong, where we can almost, in a way, idolize politics, where it blinds us to maybe a nuance or other people. Or there's the other side of the coin, where if the administration has a policy we disagree with or it makes a mistake, now the entire system is corrupt and it's evil and needs to be overthrown. What would you say to these nuances and these realities that we see today?
Wow, that's a great question. One of the greatest scholars of the Jewish people in recent years, his name was Rabbi Avraham Yitzhak Cohen Cook. He was the first chief rabbi of Israel.
Okay.
And he was a brilliant, really great scholar. And he said that in every force that we are seeing in the world, in every movement, in every power try to advocate for an idea, there's something good, even if it's broken, even if it's corrupt, even if it's mostly bad. There's something good. There's a point of truth in every movement, and it's so true. I mean, even and I know today we are living in a world of black and white,
Right.
especially as you've said with social media that try to, I don't know if it tries, but it creates a reality of polarization in
Yes.
which everybody's in their own bubble, and we are white and the others are black, and that's it. And I think that part of the development of humanity is trying to seek for higher truth. Right. We are all seekers. Okay. We are looking for truth, and we are trying to find it, and we are trying to learn and to discover. And yes, I do agree with you that we also have to realize what are the other movements, even though I don't agree with them, even though I see. I need to see the bad, because it's also the other side of that is that people often losing sight of good. Realizing to differentiate what is good and what is evil, and I think we need to hold that to differentiate good and evil,
Right.
but at the same time also to realize that there's a point of truth in everything, and we have to discover, to clean it, to find the core, and to learn from that, and to develop ourselves, and to find a higher truth
Amen. And I think too, something that unites Jews and Christians, in Genesis, the first thing we see is that human beings are made in the image of God.
Right.
And
Right.
God immediately gives
Yep.
the gift of life. And so
Right.
even if someone might have a different viewpoint or come from a different side, they still bear the image
Yep.
of God.
Yep.
And it is important, I think, for us to create a nuance and be able to hear
Right.
other points of view and at least be able to have a dialogue on
Right.
it without jumping to the accusations or
Right.
or anything of that nature. So, have you always been religious? I mean, a lot of your answers are having to do with
Yeah.
a tone of religion.
Yeah. No, actually, I haven't. I grew up in a secular family.
Hmm.
I became more observant as I grew up, and I've discovered I seeked for higher truth. I
Mm.
wanted to find truth, and therefore I found God, and
Amen.
I'm thankful for that. And I think since then I'm asking myself all these questions of what is the purpose of everything. I
Yeah.
mean, why are we here? What is the purpose? And I think before we started rolling this podcast, we had a little bit of a discussion
Yeah, we did.
around it.
We did.
And I ask you, how does Christians, what do they think about what is the purpose of everything?
Right.
And we had a whole dialogue about it. And I do believe that the purpose is, as you said also, is to have this dialogue
Right.
between
Oh,
the
that's good.
Creator and the creation, right?
Wow, yeah.
God wants to have this dialogue. He wants
Wow.
the creation to recognize. He wants humanity to recognize Him. So God wanted this dialogue,
Mhm.
and He created everything in order to have this dialogue, but to have also the recognition of Him.
Mhm.
And part of our responsibility as a Jewish people, I believe, is to serve that purpose. You know that there's a prophecy in Isaiah that says that at the end of the days,
Mhm.
the temple will be firmly established at the peak of the mountains,
Mm.
and all nations shall stream to it, for my house shall be a house of prayers
Amen.
for all nations.
Amen.
That is the purpose, this communication
Yeah.
between God and humanity, a house of prayers for all nations. And
Wow.
our responsibility in it is to be a nation of priests, to help humanity realize that,
Yeah.
communicate with God, connect with Him. That's the purpose.
Yeah.
And the nation also has a role in it
Right.
to help us realize who we are.
That's good. That's
You know
good.
that there's a verse in Psalms, right? That the nations will say to us, God has done great things with you.
Mm.
And only then the next verse is, yes, we are realizing, yes, God has done great things with us. We were rejoiced, right? That's the process.
Mhm.
You're helping us realize who we are. How do we serve not just ourselves, but all of humanity,
Mhm.
connecting it with God? That's the purpose of everything.
That's amazing. So, if you missed our conversation before we were rolling, which you did, he asked in Christianity, what was the purpose of creation? Why did God create humanity? And I responded with relationship into love, and that God wanted to create humanity to have a relationship with Him, to love them, and then humanity would then in return love God, and it would seek Him. And like he said, when you seek God, you can't help but see His glory. And it's interesting that before that question, I was talking about just humanity. Right now, we're struggling to talk to each other.
Right.
We're struggling to have that conversation between human beings, but that's why God created us in the first place, to be able to dialogue, to love, and have that relationship. But you see this one humanity, and you see the promise and the bringing together of the nations through Jesus. So that's an interesting point. So also over here in the States, we see this reality. A lot of Christians will say, "I love Israel.
Yep.
I love the Jewish people."
Yep.
But Zionism, that's kind of the where it gets gray, or where it gets a little hard for some Christians to wrap their minds around that, because Zionism equals colonialism or the apartheid. What would you say to that? How would you answer that? And how do you even see that in your day-to-day life as an Israeli politician?
First of all, and thank you for this question, because I think it's very important for everybody to understand that this whole campaign against Zionism, against Israel, it's just another form, I don't want to say of anti-Semitism, because not everybody who give critics against Israel is anti-Semite, but behind it, there are
Mhm.
people who are anti-Semite who are trying to create this whole campaign of fake against Israel to try to dehumanize us.
Yeah.
Because, for example, describing Israel as colonialist, an apartheid state, that's that's pure anti-Semitism, because there's nothing further from the truth than that.
Mm.
We are not colonizers.
Yeah.
We have returned to our ancestral homeland
Mm-hmm.
after 2,000 years of exile.
Mm-hmm.
If Jews are not belong in Judea and Samaria, in our biblical homeland, in the
Yeah.
place where all the stories of the Bible happened, where are we belong?
Yeah.
That's the only place. We are not colonizers. We took a deserted land.
Yeah.
And just as the prophet said, it will be deserted. When you will not be there, it will be deserted. It will be nothing. And it was nothing for 2,000 years.
Yeah.
And now that we have returned, now, thank God, we're seeing the land flourishing again.
Mm-hmm.
But that's because of the blessing that God has gave to the Jewish people, that only when they will return back to their land,
Mm.
we will see that happening. And this is exactly what is happening. So we are not colonizing anything. We are not taking
Right.
anything which is not ours. The land of the people, the land of Israel, belongs to the people of Israel. That's the simple truth. And to try and portray Israel as an apartheid state, that's another unbelievable false. Because 20% of Israel's population today are minorities:
Right.
Muslims, Christians,
Yeah.
Jews, Arabs.
Mm-hmm.
You can ask each and one of them if they would like to go and live in other countries in the Middle East in which they're not getting any rights, they're being persecuted. I mean, Christians are being persecuted as we speak in Syria.
Yeah.
Who's protecting them?
Yes.
Israel is protecting
Right.
them.
Right.
The Jews are being persecuted and slaughtered in Syria.
Yeah.
Who's protecting them? Israel.
Right.
20% of Israel's population today are Muslims and Christians and Jews, and they're getting equal rights. And we have Muslim Supreme Court judges and members of
Yes.
parliament, members of the Knesset, and they are everywhere, and they're getting rights. And if they would never want to leave and go in any other country, because they know perfectly well
Yeah.
that Israel is the best place for them to live,
Yeah.
to flourish, to prosper. That's the simple truth.
Right.
And trying to put all these labels against Israel, it's ignoring the simple truth, the simple reality, the simple facts on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important, especially for Christians,
Mm-hmm.
to realize that Zionism,
Mm-hmm.
that Israel is not there only for the sake of the Jewish people.
Right.
We are there. We are standing on the front line in order to protect
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
In order to protect what you believe is
Yeah.
sacred and holy.
Amen.
To protect our shared values, the
Yeah.
Judeo-Christian heritage. This is what we are fighting for,
Yeah.
against these radical forces of wokeism, secularism, nihilism, that brought together with radical Islamism.
Mm.
Charlie Kirk, which
Yeah.
only recently we've seen this horrific murder
Sure.
of Charlie. He said that repeatedly,
Mm.
that this struggle is coming to the West.
Mm-hmm.
These joint forces of radical secularism and
Mhm.
wokeism with radical Islamism,
Mm-hmm.
and that the church needs to wake up
Yeah.
and protect our Judeo-Christian values.
Mm-hmm.
And Israel is your best ally.
Yeah.
Zionists are your best allies
Mm-hmm.
in this struggle.
I want to go back to something you said just to highlight this for our listeners, that the Israeli government, the parliament, have multiple nationalities, well, not nationalities, multiple people groups
Right.
represented in it. You said
Right.
Arabs,
Right.
Muslims.
Right.
So the Israeli government is not just all Jews.
Right.
It is a mixture of all people groups coming together to steward Israel the best way possible.
Right. That's
Yeah.
a simple truth. You can every person can just Google it and see
Yeah.
the truth for what it is.
Yeah.
And it's very simple. It's right there.
And another point you brought up recently, I had the honor of speaking with a Druze woman. She lives in the States, and sadly, she lost a lot of family in
Yep.
the attacks over the summer. And it seemed that what was done to the Druze was very similar. So the Druze in Syria,
Yep.
what happened to the Druze in Syria is very similar what happened to Israel on October 7th.
Very, very similar. Yeah.
And she said that until 3 months ago, she grew up being taught that Israel is the enemy, that the Jews are what's wrong, the Jews are evil. But she said in the last 3 months, she has seen that by action, she is learning that what she was taught was incorrect.
Yeah.
Because like you said, it is the Israeli nation, the Israeli military, the Israeli people coming to the defense of the Druze and the Christians in Syria.
Right. And thank God, I think more and more people and leaders across the Middle East realizing that simple truth today. I can tell you that I'm in touch with the leader of the Anbar tribe in Iraq, and leaders of the Ahwazim in Iran, and Sunni leaders, Muslim Sunni leaders in Syria, and even in Judea and Samaria. More and more Arab Muslim leaders who came to realize, and they're saying it, that Israel is not their problem. Israel is actually the solution to their problems, because they understand that these radical forces are not just hunting Jews, not just hunting Christians, but they're also hunting Muslims.
Yeah.
And we better work together and fight together against these radical forces. And this is what we are trying to do.
Yes. So where we're talking, there's a lot of misinformation. Everything you're talking about might seem very new to our Christian audience. Where would you suggest that we go to learn these things, to learn, maybe our audience didn't realize that the Israeli government had all people groups represented, or how much work Israel was doing, not only to defend itself, but to defend other groups, including Muslim groups in the area. Where can we go to learn this?
That's a good question. Where can you learn that? But I want to address that issue from another perspective, because I know that today we have problems. Israel has problems in America, not just from the left camp, but unfortunately, recently also coming from the right conservative camp. People like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens and others who are trying to say that Israel is using America. And that this alliance between Israel and America is harming America. So I really want to address that, because I think it's extremely, extremely important, and people needs to get the answers for that. You know, I think Israel is the best ally America has, because when America supports Israel, it's not just charity. Israel is helping America every single day. You know that Israel provides America with more intelligence than all of NATO countries combined. So, and that saves American lives each and every day. Recently, one of your top generals, I forgot his name, but he said that if America would have to gather all this intelligence by itself without Israel, you have needed to build 5 CIAs.
Wow.
And you know how much money that would have cost you?
A lot.
So a lot of money. Israel provides the U.S. with unbelievable technologies that are being manufactured here in America. For example, the Iron Dome. Iron Dome is Israeli technology that is being manufactured here in America, provides tens of thousands of jobs in America, and enhance America's security. Israel is the only country in the Middle East that doesn't have American army bases. Why? Because we are fighting your wars for you. It's not like in Syria, in Qatar, in Kuwait that you need to have army bases. Israel is doing the work for you. We are fighting America's enemies each and every day, and saving American boots on the ground, saving American lives. This is what we are doing. So this is why Israel is like the most cost-effective ally of Israel. And that's even just the practical aspects, without even referring to the alliance of protecting the same values, the Judeo-Christian values, fighting for democracy, fighting for what we all hold dear. You know, Charlie Kirk, we spoke about Charlie Kirk before, and he spoke about that also, that these forces are trying to come after the American dream. And what is the American dream? The American dream is that you'll be able to have decent family, that you'll be able to marry a good wife, have your kids, as you remember, as they said that, drive their bicycle till the sun goes down, get a proper education, have decent jobs. That's the American dream. These forces are coming against the American dream, and Israel is at the forefront of the struggle against these radical forces who are trying to destroy everything we both hold dear. That is the simple truth of the alliance between Israel and America, and I think people should hear that.
You know, hearing you talk, my mind keeps going to Genesis 12, where God says, "Through you, Abraham, I will
Right.
bless the nations," and that is something we believe very
Yep.
strongly here.
Yep.
That God chose Israel and chose the Jewish people to bless the nations.
Right.
And as you're talking, I'm hearing Israel's blessings to America. You know, halfway around the world, I'm hearing Israel's blessings to the countries and the people groups surrounding Israel in the Middle East.
Right.
So it's amazing to see God's promises still being lived out and walked out today. And when we talk about Judeo-Christian values a lot, I've been asking myself a lot lately, what is the Judeo-Christian value? Because if you think about it, for 2,000 years, there's been quite a split between Jews and Christians. And we all know the history of the church regarding the Jews, and then we know the distrust from the Jews to the Christians. So it's so incredible to me that for the majority of the last 2,000 years, we see this disconnect. Yet today we're fighting for Judeo-Christian values, and how immediately that schism has been brought together. That's a miracle from the living God.
It's true.
And I think it's a testimony not only to the truth of the Hebrew Bible, but once again, as a Christian, to the New Testament, that God is uniting the world under the Jewish people through Jesus, and through the protection and the promises still strong, the covenant still strong to Abraham. It's such a miracle and a testament to the reality and the truth of the Bible.
Yep.
So Judeo-Christian value, I would say, is we see the first two gifts God gives in the Bible. In Genesis, first, of course, we know the gift of life.
Mm-hmm.
He breathes life into Adam,
Yep.
and then Eve. And then the second one is free will.
Mm-hmm.
Is free
Right,
will. Adam
right,
names
right.
The animals, and then the free will with the tree of knowledge and the tree
Yep.
of good and
Yep.
tree of knowledge of good and evil and the tree of life. So we see life and free will, and I really feel like that's the foundation of Judeo-Christian values.
Yep.
Is protecting and defending life,
Right.
and protecting and defending a right to a free will.
Exactly so.
And we're seeing the
Exactly so.
people on the other side. We're seeing them attack life, where
Mhm.
we'll glorify death.
Mhm.
And Proverbs 8 says, if you love death, you hate God.
Right.
So those of us who love life and the life given in the Hebrew Bible, life given through Jesus,
Yep.
well, Judeo-Christian values.
Indeed so. Indeed so. And we are seeing our enemies practicing methods that are contradicting these values exactly. You know, that we are being blamed for starving Gaza,
Right.
for committing genocide in Gaza. You know,
Right.
there's nothing that can be further from the truth than that.
Right.
You know, Israel is the only nation on earth that provides their enemy food
Mm-hmm.
while at war.
Yeah.
I mean, no other nation in the history has done that.
Yeah.
Now, we are doing that because we believe, as you've said, in life. We believe that every man created in the image of God, and therefore we respect our enemies. And what our enemies are doing, they're using their own people
Yeah.
as human shields.
Yeah.
That is what is happening.
Yeah.
They're sacrificing their children in order to get the world's sympathy.
Mm-hmm.
This is what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're using hospitals and schools and mosques as headquarters for terror, as launchpads for terror. This is what they're doing every single day. So they're fighting against the values that unites us.
So obviously we've been talking a lot about the great things Israel is doing. Let's just flip to the opposite. What are some things Israel can be doing better? What are some things that they're like, you know what, we're missing the mark here? What are some places that Israel can improve?
First of all, there's a lot of things. I think, when you're engaging in such a complicated war on multiple fronts, because of this, what we're doing. We are trying to work against Iran's plan to destroy Israel, and they've surrounded Israel from 7 fronts, and we are trying to fight for our survival. And of course, naturally, we're making mistakes, and I don't think anybody else who would be engaged in such a long and complicated war would not have make mistakes. We're definitely losing the battle for messaging and bringing the world closer to us, realizing what is even happening in Israel, in the Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we have a lot of things we can definitely improve and correct. But part of the reason I'm here in America, trying to speak with as many people as possible, is part of that, to try and create this dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
Again, going back to Charlie Kirk, he dedicated his life to create dialogue between people who not necessarily agrees about everything, but to not just to say, again, going back to what we started with, black and white, but to communicate, to try to get out of the bubble and and communicate, learn from each other, realize what the other thinks, and maybe get another perspective about what I'm doing, what I believe in.
Right.
And this is what I'm trying to do here also. So yes, we are making mistakes. We're trying to learn. We're trying to improve. We're trying to do the right thing. And we are trying to remind ourselves always that we are not doing it only for our sake, not just for ourselves, but for the best interest of humanity, to serve God, to serve humanity. That is the purpose of everything.
That's good. Yeah, it's interesting. You know, we didn't plan this podcast out where we're going to talk about these points too much. We had some questions but really we've kind of gone away from a lot of those questions and we've just been rolling with it. It's amazing for me to see the thread of dialogue, of questions, of conversation between all humanity, but even people who might be different. And I think the relationship between Jews and Christians is leading this, because on paper, now I know we just talked about Judeo-Christian values, and I know we talked about our similarities, but for a long time there's been big differences. So I think on paper, it would make no sense that you and I are able to have this dialogue with the differences in our faith and the differences of just things like that, of that nature. But we are deciding that to come together on the 80% of things we agree with and to build on that. And I think it's almost prophetic in a sense that if Jews and Christians can do it, so can liberals and conservatives, so can the right and the left, that we can lead the way as Jews and Christians in having the dialogue and seeing the humanity in each other, that listening to each other, and that this principle of honor and respect and love and mercy and grace and everything we know that the living God stands for can pour out, and to just be able to talk, to have dialogue. And it's amazing because that's what we said that God created us for, to have that relationship. And so we're just seeing that thread throughout this conversation, and hopefully these conversations and the other ones that David has had on this podcast can lead towards that unity in the miraculous nature. Because at the end of the day, as Christians, we believe that, for God so loved the world, he gave his only son, that whoever believes in him will have everlasting life. And then the next verse, and none should perish. And that God loves all of humanity and all of creation. And it's on his terms. It's in his truth, in the way he created it, and his emphasis and his principles. So we can't just do whatever we want, like you're talking about. But there is that unity and then that humanity and that life given to everybody. And that's what we have to fight for, and fight, not only fight to protect the life, but fight for that unity and coming together instead of the continued divisiveness.
I agree with every word you've said, but I also want to say that it doesn't mean that there is no good and evil.
Of course.
There is evil, and evil must be confronted. Evil must be defeated. And we should not be blind to that as well, because and I know it's complicated. I mean, simple messages of, love everybody, accept everybody. It's relatively easy. Or as radical Muslims trying to kill everybody. Okay, so going to each of these extremes is very easy. What we are trying to do here is to hold both things, and it's much more complicated. To love, to have this dialogue, but at the same time also to realize that there's good and evil,
and recognize what's coming against it.
And
there's some people who don't want this dialogue.
Exactly.
Yeah, so if we're for the dialogue, if you're for the unity, we're good. If you don't want it, if you want the division, we're not. Well, we've been talking about some pretty heavy stuff. I think when we were prepping, I didn't know we were going to go this deep so fast. I thought it might take like 25 minutes to get there. So let's end on a chill note.
Okay.
You're an honorary Texan.
Oh, yeah.
So,
thank God.
Does that means you're a Dallas Cowboys fan? It has to, right? I mean, we were in Dallas.
Yeah. Well, I love basketball.
Okay.
So that's my thing. Sorry to upset people.
So do you have an American team?
Not so much, actually. I mean, I'm more in Israeli basketball.
All right.
My kids, they love Israeli basketball. I mean, they're the biggest fans of Maccabi Tel Aviv. They're cheering them all the time. Yeah, but I love Texas. Really, it's a remarkable place and unbelievable people.
Well, I'm gonna answer for you then. That means
Okay,
you
yeah.
are a Dallas Cowboy
Please,
fan
please,
now.
please give me the answer. What's the
You
correct
are,
answer?
and we're gonna apply the blessings to the nations for the Cowboys. So maybe it'll give us a little
Okay.
extra luck this year in the
Okay,
playoffs. So.
okay,
All right.
definitely.
Well, thank you. Thanks for tuning in today. What a wonderful conversation. Thank you for being here.
My absolute pleasure.
Pray
Thank
for
you so much.
safe travels back to Israel, and we'll see you on the next episode.